black in white Britain. Well gone. I'm trying to change the negative narrative placed on black people within the United Kingdom and globally. I aim to do so through the use of positive images and some videos. But for now, I'm going to talk about my work and the work of photographers who inspire me, as well as books and any other research I may use to aid me along my journey. I aim to concentrate on black fathers as well as our young. First, I will begin with this statement from the book wrote by Afua Hirsch, titled British, on race, identity and belonging. It is a very interesting read, being shown the perspective of someone who is dual heritage, growing up in the posh sides of London and reading her experiences. The text goes, white supremacy is ever present in British society. I'm not talking about hooded hillbillies in the deep south, burning crosses, or skinheads with Nazi tattoos, although they do exist, but the underlying ideology for a system where generations of people were conditioned to believe in the inferiority of non-white, non-Christian and non-Europeans. An empire was built on this idea. The enduring concept of Western civilization is an expression of this idea. It is not something that disappears overnight, especially when it has never actually been defeated or overthrown. You cannot get over a wrong without the wrong having been named, owned, and acknowledged. You cannot change without articulating what needs changing. This here is powerful. As she writes, racism is here, and unless we address this and acknowledge it exists, start talking about solutions and putting some action into play, latter generations are going to suffer real bad. To help me further with my work, one photographer I seem to find myself drawn back to is Zun Lee. Here are two images from his series Father Figures, along with a statement from Zun himself. Father absence is a highly visible social issue that affects all demographics and ethnic groups, but is particularly highlighted in African descended communities. According to census statistics, over 2/3 of black children are raised in single-parent households, the vast majority of them being led by the mother. However, research also shows that the black father are no less present in their kids' lives compared to fathers of other ethnic groups, whether they happen to cohabitate with their family or not. The first image I chose is of a black father and a child doing the nightly teeth brushing routine. I love this image. As a father myself, I have been here many nights. Again, showing a positive image of a so-called absent father according to many academics. This image does not fit the narrative of some, with his tattoos and do-rag. Many would say here is a classic example of a thug. You may see a thug. I see a strong black father. This next image I fully relate to. Falling asleep while getting our young to sleep. Beautiful. Yes, I know. Again, an image that the Caucasian society / world does not see or portray. Zun Lee, I salute you, brother. I feel that we are naming the wrong, owning it, acknowledging that this narrative of negative literature is out there. The time to articulate what needs changing is now. And I am a vessel to do so. The next photographer, Devin Allen, has had his work appear in the Times magazine alongside many other papers and books. I like his work. Bearing in mind he only picked up his camera after his city, Baltimore, went into rioting. This after the police were cleared of murdering a black man. Sounds a bit like George Floyd. This adding to the huge number of black men murdered by the police. You see, his work is raw and real. Documentary photography at its best. This is something I enjoy doing myself, speaking the truth through photography. As much as we may speak the truth, the media may use your images to fit their narrative. As you can see on the Times magazine front cover, which was Devon Allen's image titled A Beautiful Ghetto. This image is of a black man running from the police who stormed the streets during the riots. I'm not sure the narrative the Times used, although I have learned not to trust the media. Here is some raw footage from the Baltimore riots. Fog. This racially charged word is used to wrongly associate black people with criminal behaviour, to taint the reputations of black victims of police brutality by suggesting they deserve violence and mistreatment, and to smear black people engaged in protests and demonstrations. It stands in contrast to descriptions of white violence and misbehaviour, the crime and destruction committed by white people, for example, following sporting events, domestic violence, college sexual assaults, general neighbourhood mischief and fights. Is often labelled as the product of rowdy revellers who are just letting off some steam, or the product of boys being boys, and so on, capitalising on racial fear and for expanding unjust, increasingly violent and often illegal policing and prosecutorial practices, particularly playing off of the age-old spectre of threatening the safety of white women. Moreover, it is also used to undermine or delegitimize behaviour among young black men that is threatening to people in power, such as malingering protesters or any youth who speak out against racism and express anger about injustice. The word thug originated in India and was used to describe people who belonged to a religious cult that robbed and killed travellers to please the goddess of death. Later, the word was adopted by British colonizers and Westerners to describe indigenous groups, to insinuate that their place in society is illegitimate and unwanted, similar to how the word is used today. Its roots are deeply racist, and its use invariably reinforces racist characterizations of black people and communities in false contrast to others. The textbook definition of a thug is a criminal, but the word has largely become a replacement for racial slurs that are no longer acceptable to say in public. Thug is used to describe poor black and brown folks, regardless of whether or not they are criminals, based purely on superficial characteristics such as the way they are dressed or carry themselves, or even just their size. The use of the word continues to provide ammunition for racial discrimination and for white supremacists upholding the Southern strategy, and thug is used to describe poor and black and brown folks, regardless of whether or not they are criminals, based purely on superficial characteristics such as the way they are dressed or carry themselves, or even just their size. Now, this is just a crumb in the cake called being black. Never mind being a black father. I hope hearing this, some people may show some understanding to why we black males become offended when they do not fit the narrative of a thug. Photographer Ernest Withers, who documented civil rights, as well as major people involved in the movement, for example Martin Luther King. This image I chose, again, it is one that is powerful. The image of black men standing together as one. Solidarity for the life of another. With the statement, I am a man. Just 4 words. 4 words that as a black man mean see me as a man before you see my colour. In essence, treat me as an equal, to which again, we have civil rights, we don't have no equal rights. Ernest Withers, on the other hand, had a side that no one knew about. He was a double agent working for the FBI. But this is another story for another time. On to black fathers. Finally, the media plays a large role in how black fathers are viewed in society. There are many media myths that should be addressed and dispelled related to blacks in general and black dads in particular. For example, media reports or depictions often misrepresent black fathers as absentee dads who abandon their children by connecting non-marital births with parental involvement. Research tells us, however, that many black fathers are deeply engaged with their children, and physical separation is not always synonymous with father involvement. According to sociologist Patricia Hill Collins, these controlling images shape people's thinking about certain groups. After being exposed to negative representations repeatedly, left unchecked, they can make policy and lawmakers unsympathetic to the plight of black dads. This is from the Institute for Family Studies titled Black Dads Matter. In short, for me, this blatantly states the negative images portrayed via media outlets contribute to how policymakers view black fathers. Hence my fight in placing positive images like these 3 different fathers, 3 different age ranges. Just to start to back up my statement, proud black fathers. When you look at these 3 separate images of black men, do you see folks, drug dealers, or even angry black men? No? I'm glad about that. I have shown you just a snippet of the black males in Great Britain. You should see one man with years of knowledge, life experiences, and love, followed by a football coach who is also self-employed, with the last image being of an uncle standing proud with his nephew, who in fact is more like a son than a nephew. Positive black males, all who are part of the change towards the negative narrative being eradicated about black people. Some more of my work. I created a canvas with a powerful statement on it. My aim is to raise awareness to the plight of black lives. If we cared more, then maybe more black lives would be spared. With the intent of raising awareness to the fact that our lives are just as important as anyone else's. Building a collection of images with people of all races, laying the foundations to unity in the community. I would like to end this AV hoping that within somebody viewing this, that the seed of change has been planted. Standing on the shoulders of our ancestors, black males, black fathers and black people in general. We are much more than any of these narratives make us out to be. Yes, some of us are bad mind. This does not give anybody authority to label the rest of us, who do not entertain bad mind people, the same. Leaving you here, I hope you, the viewer, can see the greatness held within the black community. And if you take anything from this, I hope it is something positive. Respect, Jah bless.
Still so children. That's why I tell them Rastafari stands alone. My culture is 1,000,000 years old. Selah, drowning in bad mind, but we try. Stop and search, pull my car and can never give me why. True say my colour in the presence of your honor. For my crimes, it's fucked how man would give man extra time. Brutality affects the state of mind. Brixton riots was a fight for human rights.